Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we've got the 1/5 scale rock crawler back on the table. It may look a little bit different. Well, because in previous episode I decided to take the 1/6 scale toy gravedigger body and mount it to this. Well, plans have changed. This body and the extra little roll cage it adds is coming off it, because I have to move this one back and over a little bit. I may have found something on Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, I found a second one. Considering how rare these are to find in the first place, I'm pretty sure these were only released over in America. I just happened to stumble across this while looking for something else for the channel. And then I thought to myself instantly, I've already got one. If I bought a second one, I've got spares for it. Well, let's leave it. It didn't take my mind much longer after thinking spares to think 8x8. So the plan is to build a Kamaz 6350 lorry on this. I think it would be roughly around about maybe 1/5 scale or 1/4 scale. I'm not 100% sure until it's built. You may also be wondering, this looks a little bit weird compared to that one. Like there is these extra metal frames instead of links for the bottom. Well, funny story is, talking to the seller, he had the same idea as me. So in my previous 1/5 scale rock crawler video, I had mounted a camera and a gimbal to it. So the seller who sold me this had also done the exact same. But he had done it a little bit more logically and thought about it and put a Insta360 camera on it. So it also came with this extra little tower which slots in and bolts up to the frame. So this is all custom made alley. Alright, that is some engineering has gone into this. So mate, I know I'm going to send you this video at the end. I take my hats off to you. When I saw this in photos, I thought, it's probably something I wouldn't keep or use, but to be honest, that's some usable metal there for me for future products. Oh, for future projects, not products. So yeah. So I think the first plan of action is to strip this down, make sure all the gears and everything are running nicely and smooth, grease them up, and I also want to find out if the motors in these are slower than the motors which I've got on this one. So they've got a 35 turn HPI motor. Altogether, I really want it to be slower than that at the moment, because I find 35 is a little bit too fast and I end up actually making the gears click a little bit, and considering how hard they are to find, and they don't do metal upgraded gears, I want this to last. So if I can't find the motors which are on this, I'm thinking I may just go with RC 4-wheel drive 55 turn brushed motors like this one here. And I feel like something this mega and this big is going to need a winch as well. So altogether, I think this is going to end up with 5 of these motors. Because I'm going to put one of these motors... I'm probably going to put one of these motors on a reduction box and add a spool with some wire as a winch. Because like I said, these do not come... You cannot buy these gearboxes with metal gears, so I don't particularly want to shred them. So I say enough talking. I've already went and bought the metal for this. Let's get to it. So now I've got them stripped down off the chassis, I'm trying to figure out how big this thing's going to be. So I've got a rough kind of layout on how the wheels are on this photo. I am leaving a little bit more of a gap between them anyway, due to the fact that I think I found some bigger tyres made by RC 4-wheel drive. I don't know if I can still get them or anything, but I need to replace at least a full set of 4 of these, which if I replace them 4, I'm going to have to replace all 8. So yeah, but the overall length, I reckon, because that it's got a decent amount of overhang over the rear and quite a substantial bumper on the front of it, which I'm going to try and make as one solid frame rail. I reckon it's probably going to come out to about 5 foot in length, which is going to be bloody huge considering it takes up pretty much my entire table. And I've had a little play around with doing a 4-link setup for, well, I've now ordered more links. So basically these are SCX10 links, and I'm going to do it on a center post for the front and rear, oh no, for the front 2 axles, and then going to do a center post on the rear, but make my own custom length links, because I think the SCX10 ones are going to be way too long. Apart from that, the other little odds and ends I need to do on these rims. So they stick out quite far. So I could do with maybe 3D printing some which look similar to like the ones they have on the truck with the self-inflation kit in the middle, and bring them in, so maybe to the pivot point here. So these are kind of a deep dish beadlock. So that's the next thing on the agenda. And like I said, I've decided to go 4-link instead of the traditional leaf spring like it is, and I've found some shorter shocks which should bring it up to frame rail heights, and this link is actually at full droop, so frame should sit probably about there, so the frame will sit on top of here. So yeah, let's say I think it's time to cut the stupidly long lengths of aluminum I've got and mock up a frame. I'm still waiting for links to arrive, but might as well make a start.
3 weeks later.
Well, I want to say welcome back. I know that may sound weird to you, but for me, since the last clip was filmed, that was over maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. You may be wondering, why 2 or 3 weeks ago? Well, let's leave it. I found the body shell to print. And yeah, this body shell is kind of massive. Considering this is a massive bloody build. And just how big it is, Coke can for reference. Yeah, so currently it is still printing a load of pieces, because I've only got one half. I've got the main body, like the frame, well, so I've got the main body part, which is the most essential part right now, but it is still printing a load of extra pieces. So I've got one half of the cab kind of done, so that will be from this side, and that will all be glued on. It's currently printing off the other side of the cab, so that is the bottom half, just need the top half. And then the next couple of things is to do the windshield and then roof. I've got the front grille right here, and that may give you a hint on what I'm actually building. So, like I said, this is the main part I need, because this gives me the spacing I need to know for how much steer, or how far forwards the axles need to be for steering, and how far or how much space between this wheel and the front bumper that is needed. So, enough chit chat. I think it's time to actually start assembling this frame. So, we've got the front axle assembly done. Now I basically need to duplicate this, but for the rear, but make the gap in between the two axles a little bit more closer together, just because, well, these are the steering axles, so and that servo's stuck. I need to also change the servo and motors on this axle, but I'm gonna do that once I've got all the axles together.
keep them at bay, the Brotherhood of Steel patrols the roads of the Mojave, not to keep order, but instead
harassing travelers over any bits of technology they had.
my concern here is that the show is forgetting.
So it is now time to kind of mock it up. The body is still printing, as you can hear and possibly see down in the bottom corner here. But what I need to do is set up the wheelbase. I kind of want the rear axles to be moved further back, but currently this wheel is almost off the edge of my table. The front axles, they need to move a little bit further forwards, but I need to make sure the front set of steering axles do not collide with the body. And you may be questioning, why is the rear lifted up? The rear is actually supposed to be sat on the rolls of tape there. I've had to counterbalance the cab because it only gets held on by like a bit this big, so it's quite rear heavy. So I've had to counterbalance that with quite a big bit of metal. So it's actually made the rear like do suspension travel. None of this is actually like got shocks on it currently. That is literally my next step, is to attach these to the frame rails and do cross bracing. But I wanted to make sure roughly the alignment it needs to, or rough location where these need to be mounted. God, this is bloody big. I've done a little bit off camera, i.e. I only filmed doing one of these. It's kind of a tedious task filming and trying to do stuff, because you always find, oh, your elbow or something will be blocking the view, or you end up having to, or in my case, having to drill holes in an awkward manner just so you can actually get the shot. So, now we've got the two frame rails, I'm going to reassemble it, put the axles back on, and then that will give me a basis on how wide cross bracing I need to make. And I'm not 100% sure what kind of cross bracing I'm going to do. I've got a few leftover bits of angle from doing the frame. I don't know whether or not to use them as cross bracing inside internally, or to go with a flat bar. The angle one makes sense because it will also give it support that way, but there's no way to actually bolt it on in that sort of position. But I do have a few extra bits and bobs from the camera rig, which was originally made for the second one of these, so I may be able to try and incorporate that into this somehow, because there's some thick blocks of aluminum there, which would make sense to try and make a sturdy non-twistable frame rail, because yeah, we don't want that happening and bending the frame. So I better get to reassembling the axles onto it. Okay, I'm kind of at a conundrum right now. Because I haven't got the suspension set up, I'm currently printing some spacers to try and run the smaller shocks I have, which will be mounting just here, about here on the frame. I may end up switching it back to the original shocks, which were a lot longer, but having them mounted up here. The conundrum I'm having is I don't particularly want anything on this top rail. Yeah, the top shock mounts are going to mount there now, but for the ESC's receiver and everything, the batteries I am going to do 2 external fuel tanks for, which kind of led me towards, why don't I drop the frame down just by a little bit. So using some of the original parts which came with the camera car, if I mount them there and there, that means I can probably mount the fuel tank through the same same bracket, but I can also add another bit of angle iron underneath like that, so it's a skid plate. Put a bit of perspex or some bit of plastic across the bottom and have the ESCs and radio mounted in the middle, just because then that's kind of, I want to say kind of hidden, but it also puts the weight down low and a little bit more over the centre of the chassis, considering the weight of the cab is going to be all the way up at the front. I'm not 100% sure yet. I need to have a little think about it, because the other thing it would affect if I put it there would be the breakover angle. So when you're going over something, say you've got like a bump in the road here, whether or not that would collide. So I think it would make it look a little bit more scale, because it would have the fuel tanks here kind of blocking it, but then on the actual vehicle everything's up quite high. It's just left me with this issue, is whether or not I put the fuels put a lower frame in for the electronics, or do I just put it up on the frame rail? Because most likelihood is there's going to be a gap and then the bed. So, welcome back. Well, again, I've done a bit more off camera. Just because, like I said, I think I said earlier in this video, it's kind of hard to record everything when it is just repeating the same process. So I've done all 8 shock towers. Now, I've got to wire these 600 motors all up. I've also got to change this ESC plug to a Dean's, which I've got a Dean's. So basically I've got 2 of the exact same ESCs, which I'm going to be running into a Y harness with the power taken off one of the receivers. So it will not fry the receiver getting twice as many volts, as this is going to be twin battery, or possibly one big one, depending on budget and how long this runs for. So I'm going to test run it later on two 500 mAh 2S's, and then I'm going to try it with a Y harness just on one battery and see what the run time is on that, whether or not it's worth getting maybe a 2000 getting like a 6,000 mAh battery or something like that, but bigger. So enough chit chat, it's getting late here and I need to do some soldering, so let's get to it. And that is a wrap for today's video. I want to say I apologise for not filming every single step. I know I missed a couple. Like right now, this is fully functioning. It's all wired up. So from the last clip, you probably saw me soldering the wires onto the motors. But now all the ESCs are installed. It's been out for 2 test runs. Which I've learned from them 2 test runs a couple of things. The two 5000 mAh batteries is running on 2S. Can do 3S, but it's stupidly quick. But on these two 2S's, I get around about 30-ish minutes runtime. Thanks to the power draw on these Johnson 600 motors. Another thing I've learned is these two ESCs, crawl mode, you get full throttle forwards, you get full throttle backwards, but it also adds a drag brake. The issue is, in this application, drag brake is kind of a pain in the arse. Because for some strange reason, the front 2 axles would slow down quicker before the rears. So it would end up pushing these, and considering the size of the tyres and the grip they were getting, would make the gearbox click. The next issue I had is gearbox clicking. So currently on its second test run, which most of the footage you'll be seeing at the end is from the second test run, I've broken this rear axle. So that puts me in a position that this is a crawler from 2012. There is no part support anymore. So if anyone who is watching this far to the end of the video has a Exceed RC Madstone 1/5 scale in the UK who is wanting to sell it, please hit me up on Facebook, because I kind of now need spare parts for this. Considering one of these was going to be a spare parts truck for the other one, and then I made this. Why do I do this to myself? Anyway, so if anyone has got one of them for sale, please hit me up, or a Red Cat Racing clawback 1/5 scale. Looks like they've got the exact same axles. So I have done a little order, and considering the clawback is also discontinued, I went onto the Red Cat website and ended up finding a bunch of clawback parts in the clearance sale. So I may have just cleared them out. So I've got, currently on order, I've got enough spare axle shafts from this to do all the way around again. I've ordered enough of the metal gearbox gears, which is kind of annoying. It's a 3-gear gearbox, so you've got your pinion, you've got 1 gear, 2 gear, and then the 3rd gear, which is your diff. For some strange reason, between the pinion and the first diff, the pinion and the first gear is plastic, the next gear is metal, the diff is metal. Why? Anyways, I've got them on order. I've got some metal hubs on order. Sadly, I couldn't find any of the knuckles in metal or any of the suspension linking mounts in metal. If anyone has got any other parts for this in metal or whatever lying around, please hit me up. I would love to try and make this as bulletproof as I possibly can, because I don't want to shelf queen it. I found it's kind of fun to run. Don't get me wrong, 1/10 scales are fun to run, but this is just like, again, on another scale really. So you've made it this far into the video, I might as well ask you, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, because in the new year's I'm going to start working on this cab. Enjoy your Christmas, have a happy New Year's, and enjoy this random footage.